I'm Taylor. If you've ever gotten an email from Taylor from Rate, that's me, in case you were wondering. I'm the marketing manager here at Rate. And before we get started, I want to cover a couple logistical things real quick. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them at any time using the Q&A function available in your Zoom controls. Evan will take time at the end of the presentation and answer as many questions as he can. And let me give you a short bio about Evan to introduce him. Evan's career in healthcare technology spans 25 years. He was a medical practice administrator for 9 years before becoming the founder and CEO of SRS Health, an electronic health records company focused on specialty physician practices. His focus on software ergonomics and his passion for customer service enabled high-volume specialty physicians and practices to operate at peak efficiency. Evan brings that same dedication to Rate, the leader in healthcare reputation management. And with that, please take it away, Evan.
All right, thank you very much, Taylor. Thanks for joining. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm looking at the attendee list here. Those are on the call, and I see a nice mix of both Rate-ers and Rate clients, and also others in the healthcare field who are not Rate clients. So thanks for attending. I hope you're enjoying your spring up here in the Northeast in the New York metro area. The weather's just been beautiful. It's been one of the best springs in recent memory, and I hope you are having the same. So today we're going to talk about the patient acquisition evolution from Jurassic to fantastic, kind of balancing the old way of marketing and some new elements, new ways of approaching patients and acquiring patients. And we'll go over that today. Oh, get a little dinosaur there, fly by. We're going to want to understand the value of digital marketing when it comes to acquiring patients. And there's three kind of platforms. There's healthcare reputation management. Actually, let's go reverse order. It started out years ago in the 90s with a website, and then we've added social media, and then more so over the last 7, 8, 9 years, we have the healthcare reputation management. Has been a part of a lot of practices, marketing efforts in healthcare. I always like this expression, patient acquisition starts at the search bar. We all are used to finding everything from the weather to stock prices to restaurants, and of course, doctors right on the search bar, right through Google. And first impressions obviously always matter, right? I think just us as humans, if anyone ever read the book by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink, it's a whole book about just snap decisions, first impressions. So first impressions are very important, and obviously it's very important from a marketing perspective as well. We look at the prehistoric or pre-internet or prehistoric marketing. Of all these, I think primary care providers and word of mouth are still very important, right? Nothing beats a happy patient telling their friends and family to go see a doctor, right? So word of mouth marketing is powerful. But these other avenues of marketing have taken kind of a back seat, like print ads. I can't remember the last time I read or even touched a newspaper. Billboards, billboards are on the side of the road, but I could be a 25-year-old healthy person driving down the side of the road. I'm not looking for orthopedic care at that moment or even the next 10 years. So maybe it's not as effective. Same thing with radio and TV. Community events, sports teams are nice things to do. I think they could be even more effective than some of these. And then direct mail. Again, you're sending pieces of mail to people that may or may not even be interested in your services. And then there's the yellow pages, and I put that here. We all kind of laugh at, oh, the yellow pages, that's so old-fashioned. But if you think about it, it's exactly what we have today with Google search, right? Like people looking in the yellow pages for an orthopedic surgeon or a dermatologist or a primary care doctor or an emergency room. People are actually interested in that type of service, and they go to the yellow page and look up that type of service and then see your ad. Well, it's the same thing online, right? In fact, Yelp was started. It was like an abbreviation of yellow pages, from what I understand. So when someone Googles, it's really a yellow page search. I'm looking for a ENT doctor near me, so they do that yellow pages search, and find some recommendations or find some ads. I think there's been a dramatic shift in the way patients are acquired these days. First is patients are tech savvy. My mother is 89 years old. She walks around with one of these, never more than a foot away from her. Always has this. And if the battery gets below 98%, she starts freaking out that she's almost ready to run out of batteries. So that's they're tech savvy at all ages. There's a mobile workforce, so people are all over the country now. They're, I know that, like my daughter, she's now working from, and she lives in Europe, right? She lives in different cities in Europe. She could be anywhere. So that mobile workforce is now moving to different areas, different cities. We all see these large shifts accelerated with the onset of COVID. So people are looking for new doctors in their new cities where they live. There's work from home, right? I remember I used to work in New York City, and my dentist was in New York City because I'd go at lunchtime or 2 o'clock and get an appointment. Now that I'm working from home in the suburbs of New York, I need a new dentist. I need a dentist that's here near me. So, these physician patterns, they've changed a great deal, right? People are looking for physicians near their homes because of work from home. And then there's trust. So remember, we trust what our friends say, what our primary care physician says, but now there's an element of trust what other patients are saying that I may or may not know. And that's the whole online reputation, the importance of online reputation. We call it trust marketing, is trusting others that you may or may not know. So let's just dig down a little deeper into that healthcare reputation management, which in general just means taking control of your online image and brand to attract and retain patients. So that includes online listings, reviews, ratings across not only just Google, but Healthgrades, Vitals, WebMD, Facebook. It includes believe it or not, your social media medical practice website also has elements of reputation, right? Because at least a lot of Raider Ace clients, they post testimonials from patients all the time. They put the testimonials on their website. So now you're taking comments that you're generating from patients and putting them online in your social media feeds and your medical practice website. I promise this is the only slide that just has lots of stats on it. I find those very hard to read, but I thought they're kind of important. There's been various studies, and you always got to take studies with a grain of salt because they're paid for and done by people who benefit from high numbers. But even if you cut these numbers in half, let's cut the numbers in half, 72. So 36% of prospective patients read online reviews when choosing a provider. Okay, so even if it was half of that, it's still a lot, 1 in 3 patients. 40% say they considered a provider with at least 5 reviews to be more trustworthy. That's a lot. 44% of patients read the doctor reviews after being referred. I'm in all these camps for sure, and especially this one. I have a wisdom tooth issue. Not to get too personal, but I went to my dentist. He referred me to 2 oral surgeons to go to. He gave me these 2 cards, wrote the teeth number on both of them. And the first thing I did when I get home is look up the reviews. Like, I don't know which practice to use. It used to be whichever practice had the most convenient appointment time. Now it's the one that had the best reviews, and that's the one I chose. So this is a very powerful effect here, that so many patients read reviews after a referral. And again, usually patients are given more than 1 referral, right? They get a name from their primary care physician, or 2 or 3 names like I got from my dentist. They'll get from their Facebook. My wife goes on the Facebook Bergen County Mothers Group and asks for a recommendation there. Or they go to the insurance guide if they're on Cigna, and they go online and they see who accepts the insurance. They get a few more names there. Right, so there's just a lot of names that are coming from different sources, and the only way to differentiate them is for them to search for those doctors online. Okay, so reputation management in healthcare today, this is fascinating. So we have a scraper technology, so we'll scrape thousands of reviews, thousands of Google listings, and measure what's going on. So we took 3,083 practices and hospitals nationwide. We bought a database from a company called Definitive Healthcare, called DHC, and we loaded it into the scraper, and we found that 31% have at least 4.5 stars. Now, 4.5 stars is kind of like, healthcare doctors, they're rated higher than restaurants, let's say. I think an average restaurant or an average auto body shop or coffee shop has lower ratings than doctors. It's just a fact that the patients seem to like their doctors more than their coffee shops, which is a good thing. So 4.5 stars is, to me, is a bare minimum. So of the 33,000 practices, we looked at the location listings. 31% have at least 4.5 stars. 64% have at least 30 reviews. Makes sense. Big practice, even not doing anything with reputation management, just having a big practice with a location listing, let's say a hospital like NYU, you're going to have more than 30 reviews, even without doing anything, just getting that organically. And if I look at both of these together, so who's really using something, meaning I have more than 4.5 stars and I have more than 30 reviews, it's only 24%. And then we looked at the practices and hospitals, we looked at the doctors underlying those practices, and there were 26,408 doctors. 46% have at least 4.5 stars, so a little more than the hospitals. 21%, only 21% have at least 30 reviews, which makes sense, right? A practice has a location and several doctors, so you're diluting the reviews among all the doctors, but the location gets a lot of listings. So a lot less doctors meet that 30 review threshold that I think is important, right? When I'm looking for, like when I'm looking at the dentist, if a doctor only had 6, 8, 10, 15 reviews, I'm not going to put as much weight in that as if the doctor had 30, 40, or 50 reviews. And then we looked at who has a combination of 4.5 at least and 30 reviews, and that's only 13%, which is kind of sad. So only 1 in 8 doctors around the country have an online reputation that's reasonably solid, where a patient would say, yeah, I'm going to see this doctor. So in my opinion, there's a lot of work to be done, especially on the doctor side, and also, on the practice side as well, but especially on the doctor side, to burnish those online reputations. So this is my favorite part of the presentation. It's the section's called "Google is your online billboard." It really is. We have a client that's 21 doctors and 12 APs, advanced practitioners in Ohio, right? And we looked at, so we like a mini case study. We looked at the Google Insights, the Google business data. How many times were their listings viewed on Google Search or Google Maps? So that's when I search for the doctor by name, or let's say John Smith, MD, or the name of the practice, or if I said best ophthalmologist or best urgent care center near me, and then Google recommends a few practices. How many times a year did this practice have their listings pop up like a billboard in front of patients' faces? And we found out it was 1.5 million times a year. That's an astounding number. You could expect, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 views per doctor per year. So if you have a 10 doctor practice, figure 300, 400, 500,000 views on those listings for the doctors and the location listings per year. And that's just Google, not including Health Grades, Vitals, or WebMD. And that should be by the way, you have this data. If you own the listing, you could easily get this. If you want to have, just send me an email, or I'll give you contact information at the end if you want to know how to do it, to get this data, so you could show your doctors. I'm happy to share with you. It's just a few clicks in your Google Business Console. But that's a lot of views, right? Akin to a billboard on the side of a very busy interstate. So speaking of billboards, I found this group, OA Duluth billboard, right? So you type it in Google Images and you see they have a billboard online. This is the Google image search result. So here's their billboard. So I'm on the side of the road, I'm driving down. I might not be interested in orthopedic care. I might have an orthopedic surgeon already, but I see OA Duluth, Orthopedic Associates of Duluth. I pass it by every day on the way to work. So now when I'm ready for, I strain my shoulder playing pickleball, which I seem to do once a week these days. When I strain my shoulder playing pickleball, I need to call somebody. And now I see this branding, and I'm sure OA Duluth spent a lot of money on this billboard. Yeah, I don't know. I hear anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000 a month on billboards. So they spent a lot of money. Now I'm ready to go. So I'm going to go to Orthopedic Associates of Duluth, and I search for them in Google. And this is what comes up. So where does my eye go? It immediately goes here, a little bit of an industrial warehouse looking photo, 3.4 stars, 24 reviews. Thankfully, they have orthopedic in their name because they've miscategorized their business as a medical clinic. But this is their online billboard. These are the things that are being looked at by patients 1.5 million times a year. Imagine if we took this and put it up, this listing, and put it up on the billboard. I think if you did this and one of your doctors drove by the billboard, somebody would be in deep trouble in hot water, because this 3.4 stars and 24 reviews is almost ridiculous. Like, how could you even advertise yourself like that? Yet this is what this practice is doing every day. They're spending money on the billboard and probably print ads and sporting events and mailings and everything else. And then only, getting the brand burned in the head of their patients or prospective patients, only to be searched, and this is what the patients see. So I think that's a kind of like a travesty. I think that's something that should be rectified. It's just very inefficient and ineffective. Same thing with the doctor. This is just one of the doctors at the practice, Michael Momont. He is categorized correctly here, which is nice. But I search for Dr. Momont, and I see kind of a shadowy building. His picture's not on here. 4 stars, 4 reviews. Like, maybe there's a doctor with more reviews, right? It's somebody better. That's what I'm thinking as a patient. Maybe let me go to that next patient on my list that my primary care physician gave me, or my friends gave me, or my Cigna insurance guide gave me. Same thing, you wouldn't put this on a billboard. You know how they say, the #1 doctor in Duluth, you wouldn't do that with this, yet it shows up again, 1.5 million. These listings show up 1.5 million times a year. And I think it should look like this. This is actually a Raider client, Raleigh Orthopedics, 4.9 stars, 3,700 reviews, 3,037 reviews. Nice picture of the building. This listing looks good, and likewise, this doctor from the practice looks good. I think he looks good in more than one way. It's a very great picture. Got the white teeth, but 5 stars, 223 reviews. I mean, compare that. Who am I going to use? I searched for 2 doctors. I searched for this doctor and search for this doctor. I'm going to use the doctor that has 223 reviews and 5 stars. So that's a little bit about the online billboard, and I think it's something very important way to think of the browser and then patients and how they're interacting. Think of the Google listings as a billboard advertisement. It's just a digital form instead of a pole with a background. Healthcare reputation management, everybody tries to build reviews. Everyone you talk to, of course we want more reviews. Some people use paper forms, QR codes. Those are prehistoric. We feel, automation is key. Let your patients just talk about your practice. I think you have a whole day's worth of patients. If a doctor sees 40, 50 patients in a day, I would bet you most all of them are happy patients. They're happy, they got service. The one thing that probably bothers them the most, at least from our data that we see, is waiting room time. It's the lowest rated score, but that's kind of that manifests from the success of a practice. You're so busy, you're squeezing in patients, patients just have to wait. We do have a blog we had a practice that we saw has the best waiting room time scores of all our clients. And they do some really, really interesting processes and methods and things that they implement to try to make patients more comfortable with a long wait. You could go to our website and just search the blog site and search for waiting room time. It's an interesting read. But most patients are happy. So just give them the megaphone, let them speak their mind. So send them something automated real-time patient leaves. They get a little survey or a review request, and you know, they're going to give you a high score. It's the upset patients that if you don't give them an easy way to post a review, they're going to go home and post a review anyway because they're so peeved, right? But if you're an average 5-star happy patient, a great doctor, you're not thinking of putting an online review. But if you get something that's easy and it's automated, it's electronic, sure, I'll post a review. So you want to give a megaphone to the patients and let them post reviews online in large numbers. Also, when you have an online reputation management, you also obtain feedback from the patient, which you could use to improve your practice, right? You hear the complaints and you could improve your practice that way. And that goes toward the word of mouth. Remember, I was talking about how word of mouth marketing is still really, really powerful and really important. You want to attract strong doctors and employees. So just think about it, especially if you're in an area where it might not be the best location, might be a little rural or away from a big city. How are you going to attract a doctor? If a doctor says, "Oh, there's a job opening in Duluth Orthopedics," and I just go, every new doctor is going to Google the practice and they'll see 3.4 stars, 50 reviews, said maybe I don't want to work here, right? But that Raleigh Ortho, if they see 3,000 reviews, 4.9 stars, wow, this sounds like a great practice, I want to interview there, right? So I think that a great online reputation has other benefits. So we're going to attract doctors. Same thing, employees looking for a job, they're going to search online, they see happy patients, they want to work at a place that has happy patients. Referring physicians that just want to call you, they don't have your number, they Google your practice. You want your referring physicians to feel good about the practice they're referring patients to. And if they see 380 reviews and 4.9 stars, they're going to feel better about referring patients to your practice. And then there's multiple marketing applications, and we could we'll get into that a little bit more later with the social media. I think we have a question. Patients, Pia, patients upload pictures. What's your recommendation of filtering and removing those? How frequently should I monitor those? Oh boy, somebody let me know if you could remove them, but I know what we should do is remember that doctor had a picture of the building. To get the doctor picture there, Google recommends you upload a very high resolution, a very high resolution photo of the doctor. So the real headshot, the 14 megabyte JPEG file that you got from the photographer, upload that, and they're going to give priority to that, and it's more likely that picture will appear on the profile. Same thing with your building, a high quality picture of your building, so you don't get the side of the building from Google Maps that might have a dumpster in it or something like that. So we highly recommend those high resolution photos. And maybe toward the end, if one of our experts, Parker says, you have control of the headline photo if you own, I'm sorry, now I gotta read this. He says you have control of the headline photo if you own the listing, but other people can own the pictures they want. Okay, so that's a good point. You do have control over that headline photo, right? So I would upload the those high resolution pictures, which will what share? Right, so between 10 kilobytes and 5 megabytes, you want to try to go for that 5 megabyte size. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so I like this chess checkers analogy. SEO up to now has been checkers, right? You go to, and I'm not minimizing SEO, standard SEO, but basically it's tagging. You'll tag you'll tag photos with keywords. You put keywords on your website. You try to get backlinks from other websites to your website. You post content in the form of blogs and whatnot on the website. And that's the SEO. Then there's reputation SEO. So so you've done a good job of getting Google to have your practice come up in search, but what happens when a patient says, who's the best allergy doctor near me? Or who's the best shoulder surgeon near me? How do we get Google to give you preference in their algorithms? So we call that reputation SEO. It's a different kind of SEO, okay? and most importantly, we want you to appear in the 3-pack. So this is the 3-pack. This is best orthopedic surgeon near Princeton, New Jersey. Okay, and this happens to be a client of ours, and we could see Stuart Levine, Princeton Orthopedics, and Jeffrey Abrams. All three of these doctors have the same address. They all work for the same practice. This is the Google recommendation. So this is Google's algorithm is recommending these 3 listings, and we call this, it's rare and it's hard to do, but we call this Google 3-pack domination. This one practice with their listing and the 2 doctors is dominating this 3-pack. There's a more, you can click more to look for other doctors, but if a patient's looking for the best near me and I see these 3 with these star ratings and these number of views, I'm not going to that more listings page. I'm going to choose one of these 3 doctors because they all look great to me. You know, one of these 3 listings, they all look great to me. And Google, there's so many factors that go into the Google's algorithms, and it's not a little bit, it's a black box, but Google does publish articles, and we just know as fact that some of the key variables are the number of reviews, 121, 2,200, the rating, 4.8, 4.9, and the recency. So if a listing had a review posted 3 days ago versus one that had one 3 months ago, Google likes the fresh listing and they're more likely to promote that more. There's one more R that I didn't put on here, which is also important. It's responses. So when you respond to your Google reviews, Google is going to give that listing more priority in their algorithms because you're interacting with patients, with customers. And Google likes when you interact with patients. Plus the other benefit of responding is as soon as you respond, the patient gets an email with a response. And that's just great for, patient, patient communications, patient engagement. Also, if a patient's unhappy and you respond, they get a response right away too to try to diffuse the bad experience and do kind of a service recovery. So these are important factors, and they help you dominate your 3-pack. Let's just look at this listing. This is another practice that's completely dominating this Jordan Young Institute. But what Google also does, as patients post reviews and they type in comments, Google takes the comments, scans through them, and looks for keywords. So if someone says, best knee surgeon near me, or best otolaryngologist, or best allergy doctor, if you did a knee surgery and you write in the comment, oh, Dr. Siegel did a great job operating on my knee, Google knows that, and the more comments there are, the more chance there's going to be a keyword match, and the more chance Google is going to promote that listing. Here, this was a best search, so we get highly recommend, never choose any other one, best orthopedic surgeon. So you can see how Google knows from the comments that patients are saying that this doctor or this practice is the best, and that also helps in their algorithms. So lots of things, the ratings, reviews, recency, responses, and also the sheer number of reviews to do keyword matching. Okay, so the last thing on the Google Business Profile is just these are also important, not as important as the reviews and the recent, the 3 R's, but you want to own your listing. So there's just, you kind of click on own this business here, and you could own the listing and claim it. You want to list a consistent name, address, and phone number. So Mark A. Miller, MD, that's exactly what you want on the bio page on your doctor. Exactly. Don't worry about punctuation, but you don't want Dr. Mark Miller without the A on your website and Mark A. Miller, MD on your Google listing. Google's going to make a connection and strengthen your Google listing if the NAP, name, address, phone number, match exactly. Same with address. If you have a W 72nd Street here, you want a W on your location page on your website, not West. Or if you have Suite, SUITE 150 on your website, you don't want to have a pound sign, number, pound, and then the suite number on your Google listing. You want to make sure the Google Maps address is matched perfectly with the location address on your website. And again, that's going to create neural links between the listing and your website and make that listing stronger and more likely to be recommended by Google. We just talked about professional headshots and photos. This is one of the practices that uploaded those. You can see it's professionally done high-res photos, so it shows up right here. You want to make sure the business description is correct. Instead of medical clinic, or doctor, you want orthopedic surgeon, or whatever it is. You want to add office hours, and you want to consider overall reputation. So look what Google does. They go out, Rate has review pages, but here's WebMD, there's health grades and vitals. Google's actually scraping, and they know what's going on WebMD and vitals and health grades, and they pull it right into your listing. So to the extent that the secondary review sites have good reviews, Google sees that, and it's also part of their algorithms to recommend your Google listing. So don't forget about the other review sites. You might think, I don't need health grades, vitals, WebMD, but it's a signal to Google that says this practice is good or the doctor is good, and we're going to recommend this doctor in our algorithms. So make sure you consider your overall reputation, not just your Google reputation. But Google's the most important, right? This is obviously more important than the secondary review sites. And then lastly, you want to create listings for each doctor and office location. I put that in italics because it's super, super important. Let me give an example. Let's say I'm in, a good example would be, let's say I'm in something everybody knows. Right now I'm in Bergen County. So let's say I have a Bergen County office, and then I also have a satellite office in Rockland County, which is over the border in New York. It's the next county over. So if I have a Bergen listing, right, that's my main office, and I see patients once a week in my Rockland office, I need a listing in my Rockland office. Why? Because if a patient is sitting somewhere in Rockland County and says, best whatever doctor near me, if I don't have a listing in Rockland, you're never going to show up. There's no domination of the 3-pack. You're just never going to show up because there are a lot of other doctors in Rockland that will show up that are near the patient. So you got to have that listing. Also from a confusion standpoint. So if you have one listing in Bergen County and I'm sitting in Rockland County, so 10 miles north, and I get a referral, you got to see Dr. Miller here, and I search for Dr. Mark Miller. I'm sitting in Rockland County. Google knows Mark Miller, and they know that Bergen County is near enough, and they'll pull up the Bergen County listing, not the Rockland County listing, because there is none. So the patient's going to say, Bergen County, I don't want to drive there. Next doctor on my list, let me see if I find one that's closer to me. So you've lost an opportunity to capture that patient by not having that satellite office listing. And then lastly, confusion, right? You could confuse a patient. A patient pulls up a list, I got to go to Dr. Miller's office, and I just type in Mark Miller, it comes up on my iPhone, I click directions, and I'm in Rockland, but it pulled up the Bergen listing, and now I have directions to Bergen. We hear this all the time. Patients end up in the wrong office because the listing closest to where the patient is, where they made the appointment, doesn't exist. So the listing that comes up is the wrong address. And strength in numbers, you have 1,000 appointments, 5 or 10 of them are just going to go to the wrong address because you don't have that listing. So it's a pain in the what to create satellite office listings, but our strong suggestion is if your doctor sees 10% or more of their patients at a location, create a listing for them. It's very valuable. It might take you 2 hours of your time. Who cares, right? You'll get thousands and thousands of dollars in revenue from having that listing. So the return on that time investment is tremendous. So that's why I put that in italics. No, nearing the end here. Okay, so social media. I don't need to say, I think everybody is so familiar now with social media, how important it is. But just some ideas about social media. And the biggest thing is social proof. Again, trust marketing. If you do reputation management, you have, let's say you get, 10 comments a doctor a month, so 100 comments a doctor a year, right? And you have 10 doctors. Now you have 1,000 comments from patients. On a bell curve, some of them are going to be very long and robust and have like really testimonial grade quality. So think 1,000 comments, let's say 20 of them are long and robust, and then 10 of them mention specifically a certain type of procedure or surgery, and 10 of them are really well written. And if you have a software where you're asking patient permission if they could use their name on the testimonial, now I have 5 or 10 unbelievably great testimonials that I could put let's say 12 of them I could put once a month on social media. I could put it on my website. The patients are doing the marketing for you. So we strongly recommend that, like this practice here, Midlands Ortho, you could see they take they didn't use the patient's name, but they take, oh no, this is Orthopedic Institute. They take a patient's testimonial and put it right on social media. This practice here, Midlands, they also do um, awards, right? So they look, this is a Raider A client, they look at the top rated doctors, advanced practitioners, and therapists for the month or the quarter, actually the month. They look at the ones that are rated the top highest scores, like highest star rating, and then they promote them on their page. What a great idea. Patients are telling us that these are the best doctors in our practice. They create this healthy competition among their doctors, plus patients like seeing, oh yeah, highly rated, these doctors are great, I'm going to use them, right? No downside in doing any of these, although I suppose doctors who aren't mentioned here might get a little bit upset and say, why aren't I mentioned? Well, why don't you have a great bedside manner? So those are just some ideas. You could just look at this list. I'm sure you're doing most of these. I like the behind the scenes. Patients think medical offices are like these black boxes, and they don't realize there's a human component. There are people working hard behind the scenes. So sometimes a little video or some pictures of what goes on behind the scenes could be very interesting and just good social media content. And then lastly is the website. Most everybody does this. Which insurance do we take? Do we have an online scheduling button? And you don't have to schedule an appointment per se, but at least a form that a patient could fill out and you could get back to them at a minimum. Social proof, again, all those testimonials, just get them on the doctor's bio pages, on the home page, wherever you can. And then this is my bugaboo: organize providers by specialty or subspecialty. There's a lot of large practices out there today. Hospitals do this very well. It says, what specialty you're looking for? And you go on a drop down and you say, I'm looking for an ENT surgeon, and they'll give you a list of those ENT doctors. But more important, if you're like a large orthopedic practice, and if I hurt my shoulder, and you have 20 doctors, like which doctor and I want to look at the reviews of each doctor that does shoulder surgery. I have no idea. I have to go through all 20 doctor profiles to find out which does shoulder surgery. So now I'm going to call up, I'm going to ask somebody who probably doesn't know the answer. Who are the shoulder surgeons? Now I'm waiting on hold, I'm talking to somebody, and they're finally giving me a list of shoulder surgeons. Then I'll go on the website and research. So why not just create a section in your website? Here's my services, here's the parts of the body that we service, and click on shoulder. Here are the 5 doctors who are fellowship trained or trained in hand shoulder surgery. And then that way, these are the 5 doctors. These are the ones I'm going to research. And you just made the patient's life much, much easier. You made their lives easier by organizing providers by subspecialty as well as specialty. So that wraps it up. There was a lot of information jammed into 38 minutes. I'm going to do a little Q&A. Someone asked, how do you add a provider page on Google? My business page won't allow me to make separate page for provider because we have a business page. Kayla, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Separate page for provider because we have a business page. I would say every one of our clients, unless it's a one doctor practice, maybe that's what you're referring to. You could just create a doctor. Google has a doctor category. You could just create a doctor page. And if you have one office even and 5 doctors, you could create those 5 listings for the doctors. Kayla, we do have your email address. You registered. So folks from Raider 8, maybe we could just get back to Jamie, could get back to Kayla, give her a little tutorial on how to do that. What do you think about Google Ads for helping your location and listings? Google Ads is interesting. I know they're very expensive. A lot of times it's almost silly. I see practices go, let's say they search for ABC Orthopedics, and then the ad, it comes up top, yet they come up, they come up in the first result in the search. So like, why are you paying for that ad? And then then they do knee surgeon near me. If you don't have a good online reputation, yeah, you need the ad because you're not in that Google 3-pack, right? But if you're in the Google 3-pack as a patient, and I think most of us here would agree, I would trust Google's 3-pack than a paid ad. I trust the 3-pack more than a paid ad. So if you do a good job with your online reputation and you appear and look really good in the 3-pack, you don't want that ad. It's just going to cost you a lot of money. The patients are going to select you based on the merits of your practice. based on the ratings and reviews in that Google recommendation. So Google ads are cool, but they're very expensive. They're hard, there's a maintenance component to it. And if you do a really good job with your online reputation and optimize your reputation SEO, I think it's not efficient use of your marketing dollars. What's your recommendation for a practice to track how patients are finding them? That's a tough one. This comes up all the time. I think the right now, the only sure way is, in your intake forms, or just have whoever works up the patient with a front desk person, check-in person, how'd you hear about us? If it's a new patient, and then it just fits in one of a few categories: primary care physician, insurance directory, a friend, or online search, Google search, or you could have it as part of your intake form as checkbox. That's really the only way to find. You just got to ask the patients, how do you learn about us? That's like rate or rate. We get people filling out web forms all the time. We're always wondering, how did you find out about us? You just got to ask, right? How important are other review sites like HealthGrade? So as I mentioned a little earlier, when I search for John Smith, MD, so here's HealthGrades, hematology and oncology. It's not on the right side like that big Google billboard, but it comes right up in the first page of search. So 12 reviews, 4 stars. It could be better. We like to get it over 4, a little over 4, maybe 20 or 30 reviews here. But they're important from that optics perspective, and they're also important from the Google perspective. They're scraping, they understand, they see this, and they take this reviews and ratings into account when they're deciding whether or not to promote those, that doctor's listing. So it's Google, WebMD is important, and vitals. HealthGrades is the easiest one to build reviews on. We find that literally it's the exact number. It's 6 times easier to build a review on HealthGrades than it is on WebMD and Vitals, because HealthGrades allows you to give a patient a URL that pulls up the rating form, right? So they click, pulls up a rating form, and they start rating the doctor. Where WebMD and Vitals don't do that, so you have to kind of land on the doctor's listing, and the patient has to find the leave a review button, and that just gets rid of literally 5 of 6 potential reviews. So they just go away. So thankfully, HealthGrades is much easier to build reviews, and HealthGrade usually appears much higher in search than Vitals and WebMD. Right here, it's right up near the top, right below this 3-pack. It's right here. So anyway, I do recommend building on secondary review sites, especially HealthGrades. Question: do you need to dominate the entire Google 3-pack to see good results? Yes, you do need to dominate the 3-pack, but it's rare that happens. So if I go knee surgeon, best knee surgeon near me, no reviews, no idea why Google did that. I might not have a lot near me, but there's no domination here. But if there was one doctor, maybe there's just no doctors right near me that have lots of reviews. But if there was one, all I needed is one, I would choose that doctor. And I could put in any other city and state. Let's say Des Moines, Iowa, near Des Moines, Iowa. So here, this is not a domination. These 2 here are one practice, same address, and here's probably a different from Iowa Ortho, right? So these are 2 different practices. So now it's like these 2 here, which one am I going to choose? I'll probably research all 3, right? But at least I have 2 of this one practice has 2, and this has 1. So good question. It's nice to dominate. It's very difficult to dominate, but 2 out of 3 is really nice, and especially if in a market. Do it right now. When you're sitting at your desk, type in a procedure near me, or the specialty you are near me, see what comes up. And if there's, like my first search, if there's not a lot going on, and you could just get your practice or one doctor in that 3-pack with a lot of reviews, you're going to capture a lot of the patients. Okay, great questions. Wow, awesome. Any other questions? I think we have one more. Are you familiar with the 3 best rated? Is that something worth pursuing? I think the 3 best rated is this. There is a, you could also have a, so this is also a filter Google added not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago. Sometimes when you do the best searches, they automatically have ratings set to 4 stars and higher, which means that if you have a 3 something on any of your Google reviews, you have 0% chance of showing up. But they do have these filters, so I might want to do 4.5, and then it will show all the 4.5s, all the doctors that are over 4.5 in my area, which is really nice, and just means that it's important to have high reviews because a lot of patients are clicking on those filters. What's the difference between local and organic search? Okay, good question. Local and organic, they're the same, right? So best knee surgeon near me here. Well, let's go Des Moines. This is local, right? It's local to Des Moines, and it's organic. It's not paid. It's just coming up, as kind of like these here, 25 near, these listings here. These are optimized organic search results from Google. But what Google's done, and not all the time, but like a vast high percentage of the time, they put the 3-pack here on top with these are organic results, but they're recommendations from Google, and Google is one of the most ubiquitous brands in the world, so people trust these recommendations. So these are organic in and of itself. Any other questions? Okay. Wow. A lot of questions. I really appreciate that. If you have any questions, Google listings, you want some answers, just email info@rater8.com, and we'll be sure to get somebody to answer your question, get back to you. Or if you have any follow-up questions, be happy to answer those questions. Okay. Hope we were very informative today. I know we're going to have a recording of this, and we'll end up putting it up on we'll send it to you all, and we'll have it online. But I really appreciate your participation today, and thanks for your time. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the week.